Welcome to the Tom Wayne Show.
All right. What is happening, everybody? We got Nick here. Let me just ask him to go on camera. I'll mute him. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me? Type in 1 in the comment section if you can. That way I know I'm okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Nick, you are a panelist. I think you should be able to. Hang on a sec. Well, next is coming on here. Just want to ask where is everybody from? I see obviously a lot of my students here. You guys are from Vancouver, but where's everybody else from? Vancouver, San Fran, Miami, Orlando, Chicago. Give me a quick sec here. I just gotta. North Van, Vancouver, Toronto, San Diego, Michigan, Brazil. Ukraine. Wow, that's the farthest one. We got Manila. Okay, so next study will be in shortly. Just trying to figure out a couple of tech issues. So I'm super stoked for today's webinar, and thank you everybody for hopping on. We got close to 100 people here, and it's a nasty, nasty day out here in Vancouver. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be great. So yeah, this is going to be recorded, and everybody's going to be able to have access to this a little bit later as well. So as mentioned, I wanted to bring on Nick because I feel like we as Amazon sellers live in this Amazon seller bubble, right? Oh, there he is.
Here I am.
How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I love the hat, man.
Thank you. Got to represent.
What are you representing?
Cycle Media.
Got it. Awesome, man. So I saw saying, Nick, I wanted to kind of set the frame for this interview, for this podcast, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like Amazon sellers, you know, we live in our own little bubble, and every single day we just talk about Amazon, which is great. Amazon's a great business. But at the end of the day, if you don't own your customer data, you don't really have much of a, you know, strong moat with your business. So it's not very defensible. You know, I've been personally punished by Amazon a couple times. Our Amazon listing has just gone like that without any warning, and our business went from this to this, right? And yeah, I'm sure it happens in the DTC space as well. But at least you get a bunch of customers that you can market to later. So I came across Nick first on Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much. I only just follow some really smart people and see what they say. And I heard you on a few podcasts, and then when you were doing, you know, some acquisition stuff, I reached out to you, and that's how we kind of got connected. But yeah, I thought I'd bring you on because you're the D2C guy, which, by the way, I love. I might steal that name and call myself the FBA guy.
Should.
Is that cool with you?
You should 100% do that.
I might call myself the FBA guy. But yeah, I wanted to bring you on, man, and speak to most of the audience that are listening to this right now. How many of you currently sell on Amazon, and how many of you currently here? Let me do a quick poll just so that we know. Here, let me do a quick poll, guys. Oh shit, I have to. Okay, never mind. I have to set up this poll, guys. Type in 1 if you currently just sell on Amazon, and type in 2 if you are currently selling on both channels. Like you have your Shopify site and you have your Amazon store. Type in 2 if you, so we got 1, that's 2, 3. Wow. 0. Okay. 2. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's mostly Amazon sellers. So I wanted to, you know, really frame this call so that how ultimately, you know, how does an Amazon seller take their product, take their brand and go off of Amazon, right? And then build that channel. So without further ado, Nick, why don't I just give you the mic? You can introduce yourself, and then you can jump into the slide that you prepared.
Sounds like a plan for me. Cool. How's it going, guys? I'm Nick. It was actually really funny when Tom reached out because the first time I'd heard of Tom was listening to a podcast, and I never listened to podcasts ever. But I heard Tom come in on the phone with Sam, who's been a friend for a long time, who owns The Hustle, and Sean, who co-hosts the podcast. And I was like, damn, this Tom guy sounds really interesting. I remember walking in Soho and listening to it and just thinking, damn, I got to get into one of Tom's classes. That was cool when you reached out.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But yeah, so I'm 23 years old. I primarily work with direct consumer businesses. I would say it's more shifted to CPG businesses overall in the last 6 months or so. But really helping them with anything. A lot of times they have a problem and they'll hit me up and I'm kind of their problem solver. My team, which is Sharma Brands, is I say it's kind of like a SEAL Team 6 for CPG. Or I should say like digital platform CPG. So we can usually come in, sometimes we come in pre-launch before a brand is launched, and we'll build up a full site and whatever other bells and whistles a brand might want, whether it's a texting platform or, you know, something custom there. In other cases, we'll get brought into brands if they're trying to scale pretty aggressively and they just need help doing so. So, and more recently, we've been brought in quite a bit into brands that are doing anywhere from 100 to 250 million in retail sales, and now have gotten hit pretty bad with the COVID retail shutdown. And so now their entire goal is shifting digitally. Amazon actually being a huge part of it. And so that's me. Is there anything else I should go through before we jump into the deck?
No, yeah, that's really interesting, I guess. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I think more and more retailers, they have to go online these days just because of how COVID had changed things. So I find that extremely interesting. And actually, going back, you're 23 years old, and it seems like you were doing a lot for a 23-year-old. Kind of bring us back to how you even got into the space at such an early age.
Yeah, well, it all starts when I was in high school, and I was pretty sure I wasn't going to go to any top tier college because of my grades and my SAT score. And so I started trying to figure out, like, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I got to figure out a way to make money for the rest of my life. This is me as like a 9th or 10th grader. And so I basically started doing social media and just a lot of cold emailing, a lot of hustling, and ended up doing social media for a few different celebrities like Pitbull, Priyanka Chopra, launched Magic. And that kind of started it off. I got really interested in marketing. Jesse Pujji, who owns one of the OG marketing agencies for CPG called Ampush Media, was my neighbor as a kid. And so I'd always hear him come over and talk about things, Facebook ads or social media. And so that got me really interested. And then one thing led to another. I ended up in San Francisco, spending a couple years in the B2B world on ad tech, kind of learning the entire side of data, programmatic, paid advertising. And then after that, I ended up at this company, Hintwater, and took over their direct-to-consumer business for 2 years. And then just kind of learned everything D2C through Hint, really, through Hint and kind of everything I did before, which was also driving traffic to a ton of internet publishers who were trying to arbitrage the display advertising. So I got really good at kind of different skill sets along the journey. And when I got to Hint, everything kind of tied back together. The paid advertising, the copy and creative from the arbitraging, everything just came together, and yeah, and then it just kept going from there. And then I came here to New York to work at VaynerMedia to build out a direct-to-consumer team. That's now officially launched as of this past week. It's called Vayner Commerce. And then since I left Vayner, I've just been consulting with brands through Sharma Brands, and just been having fun and building businesses.
That's awesome, man. That's super impressive. I'm going to ask you one more question before we jump into the slide here. And by the way, guys, there's going to be tons of opportunities. Ask Nick for Q&A. He's messaged me beforehand. He's like, I want to leave tons of room for Q&A because we really want to give you guys tons of value, right? We want you guys to be able to interact with someone like Nick. So the question I want to ask you is, this might be a tough one. If you can have one superpower in terms of, okay, so I'm going to give you 3 options. If you can become the best copywriter in the world, the best creative in the world, or the best paid media person in the world, which one of those 3 would you be?
I would probably say best copywriter.
Interesting.
Because copy is the one thing that is, I mean, the entire, like, if you think about a customer journey, it's all just a game of click-through rate. And so at every step, whether it's at the ad, whether it's at, the home page, the collections page, the product page, the cart, within the cart, the 4 steps there, it's just all a game of click-through rate. And copy is the one thing that influences that the most. I think, I see tons of brands today that have, kind of like janky creative, but good copy, and they're able to sell just because of their good copy. I would say copy.
Yeah, that's what Sam preaches at The Hustle as well, right? He's like,
yeah.
If there's one skill you can learn, it's copy. You'll never be poor ever again.
Yeah, Sam actually, I learned a lot of my copy skills and writing and how I write, I think a lot from Sam too. Whether it was the resources that he had sent me, or it was just like, I always observe the way he writes. I'm a huge fan of how he writes. It's just so fluid.
So for I know I said we're gonna jump into the slides, but when I get going, I just can't stop. But what do you spend most of your time on? Would it be more managing your team? Would it be more strategy with the clients? Would it be the actual? Because I know you're in the trenches. You're the one who set up a lot of the shit too. So what would you spend most of your time on? Is it more hands-on? Is there overall strategy right now?
It's definitely a mix of both. It could be anything from troubleshooting with Google as to why Google Shopping listings aren't getting approved, all the way to kind of being more hands-off and just running strategy. I would say it depends on, one, it definitely depends on the day and the day's priorities, but also the team that I've built out, I'm fortunate in the sense that they're very much super autonomous. So once I'm able to get them set up with whether it's a specific brand project or a project in general, then and as long as they're on that project, then I can usually step back and do more strategy or interfacing with the client or strategy with the client, making sure everything from a macro perspective and on the client side is set up. And then once we bring it in, then I can more project manage and less like do the work in the trenches. But that said, I mean, I do the work in the trenches every day. So,
right. What do you enjoy the most? Is it more the client facing side and selling and strategy, or is it actually like doing the work and so on and so forth?
I absolutely love selling. That's like one of my favorite things. So much so to the point that sometimes we get overworked because I can't stop selling. But in most cases, I don't know. It depends on the day, honestly. Like there's some days where I just want to be high level in strategy. And there's other days like yesterday where if I have no meetings from like 1 o'clock onwards, then you can just bet that I have headphones in and glasses on and I'm just in the trenches the whole day. It also depends. Like for example, on Monday, I have a presentation where we're selling a pretty big direct-to-consumer beauty company to a private equity firm. And so that means that this weekend I'll be in the trenches looking at every single number, trying to memorize every single campaign, click-through rate, and CPA. So it all kind of depends.
Are you acting as an investor in that beauty brand, or are you more of a broker, or like what's your relationship in that deal?
In that deal, Sharma Brands is kind of the direct-to-consumer arm for that beauty brand. And so we'll be speaking to really anything digital related. Got
it. Cool, man. Okay, well, before I ask you 100 more questions, why don't we jump into the slides? Let's give the people what they want. And then guys, save all your questions till the very end. And then so I'm going to say this, there's a Q&A tab on your Zoom. Okay. There's a chat box as well as a Q&A box. So if you have any questions, please put in the Q&A box. Save all your questions till the very end. Nick is going to go through. So Nick, the slide that you used was from another presentation that I was on, but it was pretty long. So I think for this one particularly, are you going to go through the entire slide, or is it you're going to jump around a little bit?
Well, what I was thinking, there's some nuggets in there of like that are resources. I was thinking what I'll do is I'll try and go a little quick through the slides. If there's anything in particular that anybody wants to chat about, which usually there's a couple of slides where the comments blow up, we can spend some more time there. But I think I would like to just go through the slides pretty quickly, and then let's get to a point where it's just Q&A. And I don't know if other people can come on or not, or if that's even worth it, but we can just start going through Q&A.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Okay, you can share your screen now. I made you a host.
All right, cool. So let me know when you guys can see this.
Yep.
Cool. So that's me, and that's my Judy. I'm not white, but in this case I am. So this is a Tom Wang exclusive presentation by me. That's my Twitter handle, that's my email, and that's my phone number. So you guys can always get in contact with me. So really quickly, we'll go through who I am, which we kind of already went through, so I'll skip through that. Different types of media, what happens in digital platform, and then we'll jump into Q&A. So who am I? These are some of the brands that I've worked with, or Sharma Brands has worked with. Some fun brands: Caraway, Poopery, House, Judy, Rock Nation, Cha Cha Matcha, Hint Water, The Pill Club, Hydrant. Kind of a wide range of verticals or industries, from telemedicine to CPG to entertainment, but all in the niche of direct to something. So we skip through this. Okay, so the first thing I like to start with is the direct-to-consumer flywheel. So in the middle, and I think this should apply for pretty much every Amazon business as well. In the middle, we have revenue growth, which is kind of the holy grail that everybody goes for. On the right side, we have demand, and on the left side we have supply. As with anything, there's always supply and demand. So on the supply side, we have resources. This is where you might have an injection of funding, an injection of capital. Resources also includes your money in the bank, your liquid cash, your team members, your agencies, your vendors, anything that helps you get across the finish line or enhance customer experience, anything that really helps you that's not your product or your business, which leads into capacity and capabilities. So this is everything from your supply chain to your supply chain, contract manufacturers, fulfillment centers, back-end systems. So whether it's Amazon or whether it's Shopify, Magento, this could be your email service providers like Klaviyo or MailChimp, any kind of like tools that you use. And the better your tools are, and by the way these arrows go, it's like one fuels the next. So, the more revenue you have, the better resources you have. The better resources you have, and you're constantly investing in all these things too. The better resources you have, the better capacity and capabilities you have as a brand. And the better capabilities and tools you have as a brand, and the better your brand experience and your customer retention is going to be. The better your customer retention is, the more revenue you have. So that's kind of how the supply side works. On the demand side, you start with brand value. So this is where and the two, brand value and resources, are blue because that's where the injection of capital comes in. So brand value is anything from your brand equity to your media properties to 5-star reviews to UGC content to your owned and operated blog post, blog site, like anything that you guys own or helps you build or extend brand value comes under brand value. The more brand value you have, or you can take your elements of brand value and you drive that into acquisition. Acquisition is probably the easiest one. It's just acquiring customers who buy shit. And then the more you acquire customers, the more you go into channel growth, which is kind of where the sweet spot of this webinar is, because it seems like a lot of you guys are on Amazon and now you're trying to expand your channels. So channel growth can be anything from extending platforms, going off of Amazon and jumping on Shopify, all the way to, we're running too much on Facebook, let's expand into other platforms, whether it's a Quora or Quantcast or whatever it may be. And then the more you do that, the more you get back to revenue growth. The problem is that so many businesses spend so much time just between acquisition and revenue growth, and that's the only game they play. So they get revenue, and then they invest it back into acquisition, and then that goes right back into revenue and right back. It's just a never-ending cycle, which worked really well, a few years ago, but it doesn't work today. So this presentation originally was tailored toward brand launches. I think it's completely applicable here. So these are the 5 pieces that I think are extremely important when launching a brand. Your product, which is completely on you. There's nothing I can do to help that. You have media, which we'll cover, digital platform, which we'll cover, community, which we'll cover, and then supply chain excellency, which is also on you, but extremely important. So for media, there's 3 types of media. In any kind of media, and this is kind of a recurring theme for anything that I do, you have to be extremely native to the platform that you're distributing on or putting out content on or building an experience on. So that can mean anything from making sure you're not just putting a Instagram ad on TikTok for the purpose of distributing content. That could mean not putting or making sure that you have a extremely mobile friendly landing page for when your mobile customers get to the site. There's kind of all these ways in which you want to be native to the platform. It essentially means, put customer experience up on a pedestal at all times. And in the same thing, you want to exploit every opportunity of real estate that you can, whether that is making sure that that your customers understand everything about your product, because in your landing page you have different quotes or or different taglines. It could also mean like when you see this slide, there's my phone number and my Twitter handle. Here, there's my phone number and my Twitter handle. I'm also personally exploiting every opportunity of real estate I can because I know that some of these slides are going to be screenshotted. So if we look at media, there's 3 different types of media. There's earned media, there's owned media, and there's paid media. Under earned media, these are things like influencers, press outlets, interviews with you as a founder, CEO, operator, or anybody from your team, TV opportunities, whether that's your local news or Good Morning America, and user-generated content, which is anything that your customers might take photos of and share on social media or send directly to you. So under that, under influencers, you have brand ambassadors and friends. Influencers could count as anybody from a sommelier for a restaurant, if you're a wine brand, all the way to, Amanda Cerny, who has 30 million followers. Press, there's usually 2 types of press. There's trade press. So, depending on the industry you're in, if you're in beauty, that might be WWD versus consumer press, which is more general. That could be anything from, people.com to vogue.com to Bustle, like more consumer type of stuff. TV is in this case, it's press. So it's not QVC where you're selling. That's a paid media channel. It's more like GMA or just earned TV media there. And then UGC is either seeded or organic. So typically with the brand launch, you want to seed a ton of product to create hype or FOMO. But you're also going to get a ton of organic UGC so long as your product and your product experience is valid. And a great example of organic UGC is if you look at House, Haus, if you look at their social mentions or their social media, you'll notice that people go bonkers sharing their unpackaging experience, the taste, the ambiance it comes with. So for PR, I actually took this from the founder of House. Her name is Helena. So this is quickly just how to reach out for earned media. You use Google, reach out and find reporters who write about things that you're doing. If they write about another alcoholic drink, there's a good chance they might want to write about your alcoholic drink. Granted, it has a value prop that's worth sharing. Stock them all, get as much contact info as you can, put it in a sheet, try and see if you have mutual connections. Intros are always better than cold emailing. And if you can't get an intro, then try to be as warm of a cold email as you can. So this is kind of the stalker in me, but I would go to their Instagram and I would see if they were at an event last week. I might say, hey, it was great meeting you at an event last week. I also might try and find something of common ground, whether it's, the area code and their phone number. Maybe we grew up in the same area code. Maybe it's the same city, college, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of ways you can have kind of common ground between somebody else. And then, you just make a pitch. So I write something Sam Parr style. It's very much direct to the point. No fluff. You're not trying to waste anybody's time. And if they're interested, they'll get back to you. If they're not interested, maybe they won't get back to you. And then for influencers, it's pretty much the same thing, except you can be a lot more direct. So, same thing. You make your spreadsheet, make columns for your name, handle, address, tracking number, whether they posted or not, whether they're verified. Did you make a coupon code for them? Is there a special URL? Maybe you have a short URL, like for example, with Hint, the website's drinkhint.com. I got the short URL hint.co. So for example, my URL would be hint.co/Sharma. And then you use that tracker to see, what's been sent out, what's been posted, and you can essentially track the results of an influencer campaign. On the right is a pretty simple message that you can send. I mean, same thing with influencers. Like they just think about how many DMs they probably get just because of the sheer number of followers they have. So you want to be as direct as possible. And then when you do work with an influencer, so this is actually different. So this is like if you're reaching out for earned media. This is if you're reaching out and saying, hey, we would love to do a video with you. And this is essentially a cheat sheet that I've built. I mean, I've worked with tons of influencers, from YouTubers all the way down to Instagram people to TikTokers. And And this is the cheat sheet that I found is the best. So you guys can jump in and grab this cheat sheet. This is just my public phone number. And if you text it, you'll get a text back instantly. Just make sure you type it all caps, and that's one word. But this has everything of like how to film. You know, your page 2 to this would be what you would write, and it's essentially the value props that you want them to touch on. I recommend that to find those value props, you either do some kind of paid media testing and understand the click-through rate of different copy to figure out what the value prop is. Or the other alternative is you just go through customer reviews and look at what the majority of people, you know, claim helped them the most, or they find most beneficial. So now after earned media, we have owned media. So your owned media is your own brand blog. It could be your brand website. It's your emails, and it's your social media. And so your brand publishing platform, which I'll jump into in a second, your social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Giphy. Giphy's a hack, by the way. If you sell anything that is something people want to share or talk about, especially in Instagram stories, you should definitely be on Giphy. It's not that hard. You can probably find freelancers who could get you motion GIFs in, you know, for less than a couple $100. And then the other thing you can do is you can conquest on keywords. So I don't know how much you can do it now, but when I was working with Hydrant, for example, we would conquest against SoulCycle and Rumble. So when girls would, or guys would finish their workouts and they'd want to post, they would see Hydrant there, and they might not use it, but it's some awareness that has been generated, and it's essentially free impressions. This is the brand publishing arm. So I've always been a fan of having a kind of a publishing arm or publishing extension to your brand that doesn't live on the site. If you think about it, like think about the car you bought, right? Let's say it's a Lexus. How many times are you going to go to the Lexus site to go look at the best places to road trip, or really anything? Like you're never going to go back to the Lexus site, right? So like, why would you buy a product and go back to their site? You as kind of the brand owner or operator, and or somebody who's constantly drinking your own Kool-Aid, probably think that it's worth having a blog on your own site and it's cool. But in reality, nobody gives a shit, because nobody's going to come to your site to learn anything else except to buy your product. That's why it's much more beneficial to have a separate media property that kind of lives under that brand, or it's understood that that brand is funding it or paying for it. But the content is completely editorial. It's separate. It's beneficial. It should be beneficial to anybody, regardless or not of if they're a customer of your brand. The other thing to note too is, especially for consumables, you want to always be top of mind, right? So having a brand publishing platform enables you to, whether, you know, you can have a newsletter with it, you can have events, you have another avenue of social media channels. It's just more opportunities to tap into that consumer or be top of mind with that consumer. Secondly, if you drive paid traffic to content to build a retargeting pool, it's a lot cheaper to do it that way than it is to send them to your site. And then lastly, you own the whole funnel. So if you are doing something where you're generating awareness through your own publishing platform and then retargeting to get them to your site, you own the data along the way. So you're not driving to a third-party press outlet where you can't retarget any of those visitors. You will own all the pixel data. So for social media, this is a slide I took from Axios. It's essentially how to think about each social media platform. This should be pretty straightforward, but Twitter or Facebook's to connect. Google is, you know, high intent. Those people wanting to learn. Instagram is more observing and understanding. Snapchat's just one-to-one. So yeah, Snapchat's one-to-one. Twitter is great for monitoring. And I think also Twitter is great for kind of building a cult group of following people, or a cult following, I should say. Pinterest is aspiration, and Reddit is kind of just crowdsourcing and collecting information from like the craziest parts of the internet. And then the last piece is your emails. And so This is another, I think it's a Google Sheet you get, or it might be a PDF, but if you text emails to the same number, you'll get pretty much all the email series that I tend to launch with. So your nurture and welcome series, which goes to anybody and everybody who signs up on the site. Your post-purchase, which is right after somebody buys. 4 abandoned cart emails, usually the last 2 contain coupon codes. A set of promotional emails, a set of previews and alerts, and then some retention emails like anniversary and birthday and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would recommend using GIFs, press logos. Like you wanna constantly keep building hype and credibility for yourself, even after they're a customer. Because essentially what you want is, even after somebody's a customer, you want to start marketing to them in a way where they want to share what they bought or what they use or consume with their friends. So you could almost think about, like, after somebody buys, you start shifting the narrative from selling to them to how do you sell to their friends using them. And that's where copy comes in handy. These are some great examples of launch emails or product launch emails. Quip is probably my favorite one. The Casper one's awesome. But definitely the GIFs or the motion, like, it catches your eye. You're not gonna just delete it right away. You're gonna wonder why there's a squirrel jumping over a dog. And then the last piece of media is paid media. So paid media could also be influencers, just like it was with earned media. Your outdoor, your paid social, paid search, native advertising, display advertising, and one more under display could be video advertising. So under paid media, influencers, you could use an agency like Here.digital, which is actually the Cycle founder's new agency after she sold Cycle. Outdoor is like iHeartMedia or Entercom. Entercom is just CBS, but rebranded. Social would be your paid Facebook, paid Instagram, paid Snap, paid Pinterest, all great channels to run on. Paid search would be Google and Bing. Well, Google mainly, but Bing and Yahoo you kind of want to have, at least for branded terms, so that none of your competitors bid on your terms. But you don't have to go heavy in conquesting. Native is if you ever go to articles and goes all the way to the bottom, it says you may like ... and it's got a bunch of articles. Usually like 20% of those articles in there, in most cases, are actually by the site, and the other 80% are ads. And so that's another place to advertise. And then the last one is display, where you can use Google or Quantcast. I recommend Quantcast, which you'll see why in a little bit. So, all right, so launch day paid media. I recommend you start with these. Facebook and Instagram, because it's the easiest to set up. It's the fastest to set up. You get the most data. They're the most advanced advertising platforms. And it's such a win-win. Then you have Google, and then you have Quantcast. And if you're not gonna use Quantcast for display, which I would also probably recommend, maybe don't start with display advertising, but at least set up the measure tool. The reason you want to set up the measure tool is because it just gives you a shitload of analytics. So this is an example for Refinery 29, which is a publisher site. You can pull data about publisher sites for free. So this is a great tool to use if you're trying to think of, where do I spend money on publisher partnerships? But if not, then you set this up on your site and you get this exact data for your own customers and your own site. So everything from income and ethnicity and age, all the way to what are the restaurants these people order from, what are the Hulu shows they watch, what kind of cars do they drive, like all this information. While it might get too granular, you can use a lot of the information across different parts of your marketing journey. So maybe if you understand that most customers, like 90% of your customers drive a Toyota or Lexus, maybe your ad creative shows a Toyota or Lexus instead of a minivan or like a truck. So on Facebook launch day, this is kind of my go-to strategy for Facebook. If you want to run prospecting and some retargeting, usually you can run retargeting like a week after, so you have some traffic built up. But 5 to 8 direct response product videos, which I'll show you in a sec, some examples. 2 to 3 like lifestyle videos. These are where more people are incorporated. And 2 to 3 influencer or UGC style videos. That could be anything from a really beautifully edited influencer video all the way to like you just filming an ad with your phone. So there's really no excuse to not make good creative. Retargeting. Oh, and then the last one is long form content, which still till today crushes. And it's a very untapped method of advertising. Retargeting is 1 to 2 still images where you highlight the offer in the image, or 2 to 4 videos. You want to, in retargeting, you want to think of it as a last chance to get that customer. So if you've already pushed an offer to a prospect, you know, if you've been pushing products to prospecting, think about retargeting as like, how do you get them as they're walking away? Maybe it's you throw in a 10% off coupon or highlight something that they're already getting. Maybe it's free shipping or, you know, like whatever it is. You want to make sure you can pull them back in. It's a set, like prospecting and retargeting. It's the same thing as flirting. Just think of it that way. Copy wise, you want to give copy that, again, gives them the ability to go tell their friends why they bought the product. And you always want to sell the why, not the what. So when we were selling Hint, we were originally, like when I got there, all the advertising was selling the deal or the product. And we changed it to sell the why, and we were able to scale advertising like crazy. People are now buying the benefits of the product, not the actual product itself. And again, with all of this, you still want to be extremely native to the platform that you distribute on. So here are examples of some Facebook ads. So this one was clearly filmed on somebody's like apartment floor. It's a great ad, some simple copy. If you don't know how to edit, you can always find an editor on Fiverr or Upwork. This is an ad that
I was so thrilled that I found something that I wanted to wear because
This was an ad we did for Cher, who is a huge famous singer. We launched her fragrance, and essentially it's video that her team shot as a part of a big campaign launch, big marketing campaign launch. And then my team jumped in with all of the graphic overlays and the edits and the cuts, any of the text you see coming through. I wish I could mute this. I wonder if I can do this real quick. If I just move this up and share. Oops. Present. Yeah, so this is a good example of another ad where you can take already existing content and cut it up in a way that's flashy in the sense that there's a lot of cuts, so your eyes are kind of just drawn to it. And it still has, you know, some of the old footage from the big campaign itself. This one right here is from Blueland. This is just quick, like, this is literally them throwing down a bunch of bottles and then in iMovie probably just reversing it. It's so simple to make easy creative. This one is by a friend named Jonathan Garano, who, if you actually go to jonathanteaches.com, he's actually teaching he's so bored right now in quarantine. He's teaching a webinar on how to make good creative. This is creative for a brand that he made that we work with, and it's the top performing creative. But this is a good example of UGC style or influencer style creative that's been edited to be direct response. You'll notice it's a lot less produced or a lot lesser production value than the Cher one, but it crushes just as well. And then this last one is another example of one that I found going into Hint, where it was a video of John Legend, who's obviously a huge superstar performer. We cut it up in ways and used different clips to make it more direct response. And this was actually an ad that ran as a retargeting ad on display networks. And then this is more like launch day creative that I was talking about. So this is for Judy, which is a brand that I launched in the end of February. So we'll start from the right side. So on the right side, you see that we're literally just going through the tools. Everything here was shot and performed, or everything in that creative all the way to the right was shot at somebody's apartment. And our editor just put copy overlays and graphic overlays. It's kind of all in the style of editing there. The one to the left of that was shot in a studio, which actually surprisingly didn't perform as well as the one that was shot at home. The second one, where it says when everyone decides to get sick, that's Christina herself, and she's also just shooting that in her apartment. That was one of the best video ads. And then the one all the way to the left is a good example of why you want to sell the benefits in the copy. You'll notice that when you sell the benefits in the copy versus trying to sell the what, so for example, we wrote everything you can think of to put into an emergency kit plus everything you didn't think of is much better than meet Judy, a new emergency kit, right? And because of that copy, you'll notice that the shares and the comments are pretty much 1-to-1, which is if anybody's run Facebook ads, you'll know that driving to a product page or a landing page with a 1-to-1 shares to comments ratio is pretty incredible. But all this to show that this is all creative that was made, super cheap, super scrappily, and it's nothing like that fancy. It's very much easy to do at home. For Google, you want to focus on your copy and your landing pages. So you have 3 different types of Google ads. You have branded ads, non-branded ads, and you have conquesting. Branded is like going after, so if you're Judy, branded's going after anybody who searched Judy kit, Judy emergency kit, Judy survival kit, you'll see Judy. Non-branded is people searching for the same thing, but without mentioning your name. So survival kit, emergency preparedness kit, that's when Judy would come up for non-branded. Conquesting is just hitting competitors. So, if you're searching for anything that's competitive to your brand and you're conquesting, then you're bidding to show up right at the top. The best example is if you look at telemedicine brands like Hims and Roman, they are constantly, and Keeps, they're constantly bidding for each other. And that's called conquesting. And typically, the reason I mention landing pages and copy is because especially for non-branded and conquesting, it's all a game of click-through. So you have to get them to notice your search result first. Then you have to have something in that tiny real estate that shows them that you're worth the click more than anybody else. So, that could be having a coupon code in your headline. That could be going into things that are value props to you that they don't have. And then you want to lead it to a landing page. And oftentimes in conquesting landing pages, it's like you can understand, you can set up campaigns where you go after specific brands. And so, for example, Lisa and Casper used to do this all the time, where if you search one or the other, I don't know if this still happens, but if you search one or the other back in the day, the other would be, the second search result, and it would be, this is why Lisa is so much better than Casper. And on the flip side, this is why Casper is better than Lisa. Or it might be like Lisa versus Casper, see the winner. And you're kind of more inclined to click it. And then the landing page, it's the landing page's job to now show why it's better or worse. And creative is your main focus. Like copy, these are just some more tips, but be efficient with the real estate you get. Use coupon codes in the headlines. Like sometimes if you use coupon codes in the headlines, you get coupon codes that get validated without the click even happening. So it's almost like a free customer acquisition. And then this is more examples where you want to be using all the possible real estate. So on the right side is an example of when we turn the coupon code on in the headline. On the left side, you can see Hint probably does one of the best jobs with search ads, using all the real estate possible. And then on the landing page, you want to basically think of the landing page as a red carpet, and think of your customer as Kim Kardashian. Would you ever walk the red carpet with Kim Kardashian and not be extremely prepared to answer every single question she had? You wouldn't. And so you want to do the same thing with a landing page, where as the customer is scrolling down the page, you got to be hitting every single answer or every single question that they have with an answer on the page. And whatever way you decide to do that, you do it. And while doing that, you want to be native to the platform. So like a typical landing page is, this is the format: hero, press or brag bar. You might have a section of value props, a quote, value add, shop section, another section of value props, more press logos, more value props. You might have content, another shop section, a quote to finish it off, and footer. I've seen a lot of people add reviews in there. You know, essentially you want to be able to answer everything that they might have going through it. Assume that when they get to the page, they know absolutely nothing about your brand. So if you've ever seen the episode of The Office where they sell in the garage downstairs or the warehouse, they set up a like a farmer's market. You notice Dwight is always rearranging the beats to put the best beats in the front. It's the same thing with the landing page. You want to put your best beats up at the top, and then you put the lesser good looking beats near the bottom. The Judy landing page is just get.readyjudy.com. That's one of my favorite examples of a really efficient landing page. As far as digital platform goes, for a recommended DTC stack, for reviews and for loyalty, I recommend Yotpo. For analytics, I recommend Glue. For customer data and site analytics, I recommend Measure by Quantcast. Post-purchase order tracking is Aftership, which you could preview at track.judy.co. For SMS, I recommend Postscript because they integrate with everything. For community, the easiest thing to do, and this is the no bullshit, no excuses method to make community or build community, is like build a Facebook group and link the Facebook group in your post-purchase emails and tell them that, you know, all your VIP customers get to this Facebook group. Like, that's the easiest way to build community. For commerce, I recommend Shopify. If you're big enough, you go to Shopify Plus. For email, Klaviyo. For credit, I recommend Brex or Clearbank. I think if you go to brex.com/Nick Sharma, you get like a pretty solid deal going in. And then for product feed, you can use Feednomics. Product feeds help you run like Google Shopping ads or Facebook dynamic product ads, which is when you usually see like a carousel of different products. And then lastly, for customer service, I recommend Zendesk. So for your website, you have your essential pages. So your homepage, collections, product pages, about us, contact, shipping, refund policy. Those last two, by the way, are required to be able to run Google ads. So you want to make sure you build that into your plans. And then terms of service and privacy policy. For landing pages, you want to have one for paid social. Your paid social one, if you're not segmenting out by geo or demographic or income or anything of that sort, you want to have kind of the largest possible total addressable market offer. So for Hint, that's 36 for 36. If you go to their homepage, you'll see that banner there because they capture a lot of TV traffic. But their offer is essentially $1 a bottle, gets you in. It's 3 cases, which means they're making enough margin on that to where 36 for 36 makes sense. But that's what your landing page is supposed to do. It's supposed to capture people who have some kind of interest and give them a good deal. For paid search, you want to have one that's like we talked about for conquesting. The other could be the same as your paid social, but it's essentially one that's more focused on like closing the deal. And then for SMS, you could use SMS to build a community. So for example, with Dream Pops, we decided to launch this program of it's like the sommelier of ice cream. So if you're eating steak or whatever you're eating, you can text the Dream Pops number and be like, what's a good flavor of ice cream to match it with? You don't have to be a customer. You don't have to ever have purchased before, but you'll get a response back of what flavor to eat. So it's easy to build community in that way. You can also use SMS for transactional purposes. So after, you can use it for cart abandonment, which is one way people use it. You could also use it for, after somebody purchases, you send them a text that has dynamic fields. So, hey, it's Nick. Thanks so much for purchasing product, the safe. We've worked so hard over it. We've worked so hard on it for the last 2 years. We're really excited for you to try it. Something like that is great. You can have one that is for delivery notifications. So after something's been delivered, hey, just wanted to let you know your product's been delivered. That's good if you have a logo on your box, because a lot of times that could mean that your products get stolen off somebody else's porch. And then you can also use it for the purpose of cross-selling and upselling other products depending on what they've purchased previously, and or use it to push them into a subscription. And then lastly, you have your editorial platform, and you build data off of that. So that's kind of that. That's my phone number. Anybody can text me. The first text you get back is automated, but that's because it's for legal reasons. And then after that, everything that you get is directly from me. So I guess now we can jump into some Q&A.
Let's do it. All right, guys. Hopefully your brain has exploded. If not, you didn't pay attention. Just kidding. No, there's a lot of gold nuggets that I picked up, especially like always personally speaking, you know, like I own a skincare brand, so I have a couple of businesses, like my coaching business. I can literally pick up a phone right now and film an ad, and you know, it's really easy for me to do. But then with the beauty brand, I probably should not be in any videos, or else our conversion rate will go down. But
You're pretty cute, Tom.
yeah, maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think that's one of my bottlenecks. So I just went on your friend's webinar, and gonna register for that and see how he makes creatives. Guys, who got a lot of value out of this? Guys, post in the comment section if you thought that was informative, if you thought that was tons and tons of golden nuggets. By the way, guys, please post your questions in the Q&A. I'm not going to answer any questions in the chat. There's a Q&A tab and there's a chat tab. I'm going to go in the Q&A right now. Nick, I'll read out the Q&As for you, and then you can answer them, okay?
Okay.
So the first one's from Mark. I like the strategy of driving traffic to content versus website. Are you able to track conversions to your own website and or your Amazon listings with this strategy?
I think you can. So I think with, and I don't exactly know, I'm not like a super Amazon expert. I'm pretty sure Facebook has a way to track conversions with Amazon now. And if you use Facebook to drive traffic to that site, then you can, because the second a user clicks on the ad, Facebook's conversion pixel is waiting for that that conversion to fire. So if there is a way to do it where you can track conversions with Facebook and Amazon, then you can definitely make that happen.
Okay, cool. Mark's second question is, the change from the what to the why with ads is interesting. Can you share some specific concrete examples of this with Hint? Just wanted to understand
Sure.
this a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, so for Hint, it was originally like, try still flavored water, many different flavors. Here's 20% off. We changed it to meet our founder. She started Hint because she was addicted to diet soda, and now she's gotten rid of that habit thanks to drinking much tastier water. I think the telemedicine brands are kind of forced to do it that way. So I would look at examples from Hims, Roman, Keeps, the Pill Club, and like really look at how they market their copy and creative, because they're essentially selling, like in the case of Hims and Roman, they're selling the benefit of the products. And I think those are probably better examples to look at.
Got it. Polly, your question is a little bit broad. So it says, what is the Facebook ad strategy? We got to dive a little bit deeper with that question. But David has a pretty good question. So a lot of the listeners here are essentially just like, we'll call it small mom and pop, right? Like, maybe one man team or two people, so on and so forth. So a lot of things you covered, that it's a lot of info, right? I don't think it's sustainable for someone who's basically a one man team or two man team. But if you were to give advice to someone who's on the smaller end, what would the strategy be there? Where would you allocate your budget to each of those platforms? Would you just focus on one of those platforms versus everything?
Yeah, if I was a one-man team, I would just go Facebook. bid on branded terms, like set it up. But I would just go on Facebook because it's the easiest to manage. You can manage Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger. You can manage all those within one platform. I would probably just go with Facebook.
Got it.
Or you pick another platform to test. So if you have, if you're selling like a pair of socks for $15 and that's your order value, then maybe try something like Snapchat. But I would definitely go like one platform at a time.
Right. Can you quickly explain what native means again? I don't think a lot of people understood the native part.
Yeah. So for native, it basically means like be contextually relevant to the platform. So if you make a studio ad for your website, right? If you make a nice, beautiful hero creative for your site, that doesn't mean take that same thing and run it as a Facebook ad. You got to make alterations and changes there. If you have a Instagram story ad that crushes, that doesn't mean you can take it and put it on TikTok and run it, or Snap and run it as an ad. You have to be extremely
Tailored.
not only cognizant, but tailored to how that audience interacts within the platform. So, and every platform is different, right? So like Instagram is very much an up and down feed based thing. Where you have multiple creatives at any given time in a feed because not one post takes up the full screen. Whereas Snapchat, you get accustomed to one post per screen size. And then if you want to learn more, you swipe over. And so like just even understanding how your thumb interacts with the screen helps you be more native to the platform.
Right. Totally.
That's actually a great example right there is like, it's the reason why you can't run an Instagram ad that says swipe up on TikTok, because swiping up is just going to get you past the ad.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. And then even like every single platform has their own like image sizing, video sizing. So basically being native just means being tailored to that specific platform. So here's a question for you. And this is a little bit more hands-on, which I love. Regarding your comment on native to the platform, if I have an online financial metrics newsletter, not just financial blog, but more proprietary institution level valuation ratio, et cetera, used by H&W investors and portfolio managers, can you suggest what platform I should market on?
I mean, like high net worth investors and portfolio managers, they all have Facebook accounts or Instagram accounts. They also probably read things like Morning Brew. I found that actually with newsletters, some of the best user acquisition methods is sponsoring other newsletters. That's what Morning Brew and The Hustle did quite a bit, and even Pursuit in their early days. But I mean, like literally what I would do is I would just go look at who are newsletters that are absolutely killing it. Look at The Hustle, look at Morning Brew, look at The Skim. Maybe not so much The Skim, but go to their Facebook ads and understand what they're doing. So I was actually doing this all day yesterday because I was looking into this as well. But like Morning Brew and The Hustle, their landing page is literally just an email capture with a screenshot on the side. That's pretty much the same thing for Quartz and Vox and BuzzFeed. Like they all kind of do the same thing. And the reason they do that is because it works. Morning Brew and all these other media companies spend hundreds of $1,000s a month driving traffic. So they've already done the testing for you. All you have to go is look at what they're doing and you could literally just copy it in your own way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, success leaves clues, guys. And nowadays you can really there's so many tools out there and resources that you can look under the hood of a lot of businesses and basically emulate what they've done. Let's see. Some of the questions I'm not going to ask because they're a little bit vague, guys. So if you can be very, very specific, like the one previously, those are the questions I think that's going to get more value. But a lot of these questions are quite vague. So I don't think I'm going to get a good answer. So we answered this. I'm just going through some of the questions here. Hey, let me ask a question, actually. Let me be selfish a little bit here. I wrote you some questions. So some D2C brands got hit harder than others, right? So Away, as you guys know, is a huge suitcase company. They built a travel brand, and they're probably getting crushed right now. I read that they had to let go a big chunk of their employees. If Away hired you to basically fix their problems right now, which I would assume like sales are low, what would you do in the current landscape, assuming that the pandemic and travel is not going to go back to normal anytime soon?
I wouldn't take it on.
Good answer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Good answer.
I don't think it's a recession-proof business, which kind of sucks. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what I would do with Away. I would probably figure out like other ways to mask the idea of portability or carrying things into other products that are more relevant to a post-COVID world. But I think the innovation has to come from the product side, not the marketing side.
Mm-hmm. And what have you, I mean, you work with a lot of different brands and you probably talk to a lot of DTC brands all day, every day. What have you kind of noticed with regards to this COVID? How has this impacted some of the brands you've been talking to? What type of buckets have you seen people fall into?
Well, a lot of the consumable brands are still doing well, like food and bev are crushing. Alcohol is doing really well. This is probably the first time food delivery has been doing really well. Food delivery, meaning like the Blue Aprons of the world. Beauty's not doing too hot because people aren't going outside. Initially, there was a ton of like pullback on advertising, not a lot of messaging referencing COVID or kind of like the new lifestyle that was to come. But more recently, I've seen a lot of that. And you know, a lot of the brands are actually like starting to recover sales wise now. Starting to get back on track. So from what I've seen, it looks like things are starting to get back to normal.
Yeah. No, I feel that way too. Just even when you're in New York, I mean, you guys got hit the hardest. Have you kind of noticed more people on the streets or anything like that at all? Or is it still kind of like gloomy outside?
I mean, weather-wise, it's gloomy today.
Yeah, it's nasty out here in Vancouver. It's disgusting, actually.
There's definitely less people. I mean, I've seen more and more people out on the streets lately, but everything is still closed. Stores are closed. I think all stores still closed by 7. Restaurants are closed. Although I feel like now people are just starting to get used to this.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we're like, people are super adaptable, right? So I think people are just essentially getting used to it. The other question I had was like, you know, and this might be, you know, really naive for me to say, but when I take a look at a lot of these brands, right, I just feel like they're going off of like a branding play. Like, I don't think they have anything proprietary. I don't think like a lot of the brands I look at from a surface level, I'm just like, wow, that's a super sick, like your typical D2C branding, you know, poppy colors, cool font. They have a really nice landing page. The user experience is really cool. Do you feel like that is, you know, that is do you think that is what it takes to really succeed and build a solid foundation for a D2C brand? And if you add in, you know, good ops, good inventory management, supply chain and stuff like that, like you can actually take that off with good paid ads? Or do you feel like that space is getting a little bit saturated now and you need something that's a little bit more proprietary, something that is a little bit more on the product side at least? Do you understand what I mean? Or like,
100%.
Yeah.
I think you still need like a great product at the beginning of anything. You can't use marketing to fix a bad product. And I know of quite a bit of founders who, or not quite a bit, like a handful of founders who will admit in closed circles that their product is not a 10 out of 10 product. It's like a 6 out of 10 product. And because of that, they can only grow so much. You know, in this case specifically, this brand is capped out at a level of sales where they just can't scale any further because their product doesn't allow it. I personally think that, I mean, like Outdoor Voices is a great example of that, right? Like they sell a commoditized product and tried to differentiate themselves with beautiful branding and aesthetic and community. But at the end of the day, if your product is not stellar, like regardless of what Outdoor Voices does, they'll just never be better than Lululemon. And regardless of what Lululemon does on the marketing side, people are still going to buy their product because it's more comfortable than Outdoor Voices. So I think good marketing can't fix a bad product. And like, again, that's on you as an operator to do.
Yeah, no, totally. Daryl's got a question. I mean, I can answer this one. Guys, when you write copy, do not mention anything that has to do with COVID-19, pandemic, anything related. You're gonna get banned in 2 seconds. So I know with the current state, like world, what's going on, and you want to kind of tap into that market. Do not mention any of those words, because when we try to run ads, it just does not work. Let's see what other questions we have here. How would you advise creating content around? So I don't really understand that. Let's see here. If we're currently a one-man team and can afford to make our first hire, what position skill set would be the highest priority?
Well, it depends, I think, what your skill set is. So if you are, if you're not a marketer, I would definitely hire like a growth marketer. If you are a marketer, I would hire and you're not as strong as in ops, I would hire on the ops side. I think it's just filling the gaps of where you haven't, like wherever you have a gap, you want to fill that gap.
Yeah, for sure. And I got a really good advice from someone from the last, this guy has built 5 8-figure brands, D2C brands, from my last webinar. But he's like, just hire the ones that you don't feel like doing. Like at the end of the day, I mean, at the end of the day, when you run a business, like you don't want to, like we want to do this because we want to have more freedom, right? That's the ultimate goal. And if you hate doing something, that's the first thing you should outsource. Or else you just hate running your business.
Yeah,
Do a lot of shit that you hate. To Sam has a good question here. For your Sharma brands, and this is something I'm curious in, what makes you decide on what brands to support or invest in if they are brand new?
So usually it's a lot of times it's based on the founder. And outside of the founder, like for House, for example, I actually invested in House before I even tried the product or met Helena, but it was only because I knew that a friend of mine had done the branding and that their entire supply chain was completely vertically integrated and owned and operated by them. So to me, that was a defensible moat that I think is investable in. And just knowing the founder's background, I was pretty confident she could execute. With other investments, it's a combination of like the founder. It's a combination of the team that might be involved, although I would say less so the team, more so the founder. Do they understand a path to distribution? I look at everything backwards from distribution. So, for an olive oil company I invested in, when she was telling me her path to distribution, I've like fell in love with how she wants to distribute it. And so to me, that was also a moat in itself. But I think like the last thing, or one thing I used to look at that I probably look at less now, is like, if worse comes to worse, would I be able to jump in personally? And would I be able to jump in personally and help out the business? And then lastly, I would say, what was the last one? What's that existing cap table look like? So for example, like there was a brand that actually somebody had texted me their company. I was in San Francisco, decided to meet with him. And then he said that Moyes, who's another friend of mine, is on the cap table. And so that like just knowing Moyes was on the cap table for me was enough to write a check. So it kind of all depends. There's a ton of different things.
Right. Totally. I think a lot of people have questions about copy. I actually took a course that was recommended by Sam at The Hustle.
Yeah, that's the same one I took. That's okay. Hands down the best thing to take.
Yeah. So it's called the copywriting course.
Yeah. And I would say observe everything that guy does. Don't just look at what he's teaching, look at everything around it.
Yeah. So copywriting, it's a pretty, so I think someone actually said it in the chat. So yeah, Navel, check out his copywriting course. It's spelled with a K. So instead of a C, like copywriting, COPY, it's KOPY. So just type that in and
I think it's copywritingcourse.com, right? With Ks.
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's answer a couple questions. Let me see what else. Let's answer a couple more. What are some books? I heard that you're not a big reader. You like to just like hit up. You like to just like learn from people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's me though. I don't know what book. I'm not the right person to ask for books.
Yeah, he doesn't read. Let's see here. A few more questions. Okay, I'm just gonna I'm gonna pick the best one. We got one more question here. Influencer question: what is the average price? Yeah, that's a little bit too vague. Actually, I'm going to ask a question regarding, so Vicky asked a pretty good question in terms of when you're launching a new product, what is the timeline for pre-launch strategy? Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about pre-launch. Judy, I know that you guys were able to tap into some A-list celebrities, which helps a lot. But for someone who does not have that type of network and they are creating their product right now, let's say that they already went through the product validation phase, talked to a bunch of customers, people like the product, but now I actually want to launch this product to the mass audience. What are some of your favorite pre-launch strategies to get the brand off of the gate as fast as possible?
I mean, I think I'm a huge fan of being scrappy. So I would say like jump on Product Hunt, make a beautiful posting on Product Hunt. That's what we did for Judy too. Like day one was Product Hunt. Jump on Reddit, jump on Twitter, jump in Instagram DMs. Like there's so many free ways to get your product out there that don't require using ads. They just require using time instead of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would jump on Product Hunt. I would reach out to anybody less than 100,000 followers. There's a good chance they might post for free or in exchange for product. Try and build a campaign around it. So, like something that is press worthy or something that the press would pick up, which means it has to be somewhat relevant to current events or current times. Yeah, I think just getting really creative with distribution.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about, this is the last question I want to ask, and I want to be respectful of your time as well. Are you basically, so at what stage do you start working with brands? Is it from the very, very ground up, meaning that they're still looking for product market fit? Or is it that they already discovered product market fit? Because I love to understand a little bit about product market fit part. So for example, I'm just going to throw out an example right now. Before the COVID thing hit, I was basically going to the gym every day. And one of the things that I felt like I hated making protein shakes, right? I just felt like, oh, you got to put it in the bottle. You got to bring it with you and this and that. So I know that gummies right now is kind of a hot, there's gummies for everything. There's like apple cider vinegar gummies and stuff like that. So I thought, hey, how cool would it be? And if any of you guys want to steal my idea and go execute, go ahead. How cool would it be to create a pre-workout gummy bear or a protein gummy bear so that you can actually, once you're done the gym or before the gym, you can just pop in some gummy bears. I mean, everybody likes gummy bears. And essentially, that will be a replacement for whey protein or powder, any sort of powder. So that's the idea that I had in my head. But in order for me to, go ahead and launch that company, I need to see if it's a good idea for other people as well. So other than going to the gym and talking to people at the gym in the locker room and stuff like that, creeping them out, what are some of the, I guess, internet ways that you can do in order to validate that idea? I think you mentioned before, you would build a simple landing page, drive traffic, have a survey and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way to do it is go to Unbounce, sign up for a free trial for 14 days, build a page. You can either build it from scratch, use one of their templates, or you can actually Google templates for Unbounce. Put together enough information on the landing page. You can put an email or a sign-up form, whether that's just email or that's email and maybe you understand their habits or their zip code or their gender, whatever you want to understand. So use that as your end destination. Then take $300 on Facebook ads, spread it over 10 days, run $30 a day, and just identify one, do people care enough to click through in general? But two, if you want to go deeper, you can actually use different copy on different ads and look at what gets the highest click-through rate. And whatever copy gets higher click-through rates, it helps you to understand what those value props are that your customers care about as it relates to that product. But that'll give you a good baseline of like a cost per email sign up or just a sign up in general. There's a really good, let me find the link and put it in the chat, but there's a really good newsletter by Justin Mayers, who's the founder of Kettle and Fire. And he actually sent out a newsletter yesterday where he, in his newsletter, and again, I never read newsletters, so I'm surprised I caught this, but he went
seems like you got to read more and listen to more podcasts.
I know, I need to. But let me find this post. Yeah, here we go. I've got the link. So I'm going to just put this in the chat. But this is essentially how he did it for bone broth. And yeah, I mean, you basically buy a site, you put up a site, you run some ads, you figure out if people care, and then you start to validate the idea. If people care and the idea is validated, then you start to do value prop testing. If people care even further than that, you start to take payment. So you can understand like a cost of acquisition. And then if that works, then you go out and start building or go show an investor that you have actual numbers and results. And you can, you use that to keep going forward.
Dude, that article is wow. I'm just taking a browse of that article right now. It seems like it will answer my exact question pretty much in a case study.
Yeah.
Damn, this is awesome. This is exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, I think the thing is selling on Amazon, like we get all these different softwares that we can use. And then if you want to sell, for example, like bone broth, all you got to do is type in bone broth and see the search volume for that keyword. And then that will validate your idea or not, essentially. Because if there's demand for the product, people are looking for it, then you can kind of go into the market. But once you're kind of off of Amazon, or if you're creating kind of a new category, it's a little bit different. So I'm trying to, understand a little bit more about product market fit, reading some really good books like The Mom Test that was recommended. And that's a great book to learn a little bit more about product market fit. Okay, Nick. Well, look, man, I really appreciate your time and you dropping tons of gold on our audience. And Nick, for those that want to connect with you in the future, where can they find you?
Twitter, or you can just text me 917-905-2340. And I'll probably spend an hour or two tonight just responding to a bunch of questions. So if you want to shoot a text over with a question, I will likely answer you by tonight.
Awesome. And what texting platform? That's Community, right? It's called
Community.com. Yeah. Do
you recommend for my personal brand? Do you recommend for me to get on that?
I definitely recommend Community for personal brands. I've seen Superphone as like a competitor. I used to be on Superphone. I switched over to Community, as a lot of their big users have. It's just a lot more easier of a platform to use, and they actually also work directly with phone carriers, so deliverability is never an issue. Awesome.
Okay, Nick. Well, thanks for your time again. Really appreciate it, man. Let's keep in touch. If you need any help, I know that you were talking to some big companies about Amazon. If I can provide any value for you, love to hop on a call and see what I can do for you from a strategy side on that side.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome, brother. Okay, guys. Well, thank you all very much for attending this morning's call. I hope you guys got tons and tons of value. This is going to be, replay is going to be up on my Facebook page as well as the YouTube channel. So if you didn't get a chance to take a lot of notes, go back and watch the replay. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next episode. All right. Peace out, guys.